So, in order to have an actually good human-machine interface with redstone, at some point you're going to need a screen, a digital screen. And, of course, one of the oldest designs for a digital screen is this thing here. Now, this is a single pixel. This is about as compact as you could have gotten it a long time ago. 2x2, which is literally twice as big as you would prefer, actually, for obvious reasons. But as you can see, it also has a very horrible delay. That's a that's a 4-tick delay reaction from signal in to response. Actually, I think it might be slightly worse because these lamps, I think, also have a reaction time. And so, that's a problem. One really good way of actually getting it to react faster is using pistons instead. And so you can see now, that reacts basically instantly, but it also is really loud and isn't good for lag. And also you can see this is bad. Yeah, that is implicit, but I had an idea. If I hybridized my bundled or composite lines with some other ideas I had, I might be able to actually compress it so that it's less than what it is here, as you see. Because this is just unacceptable in the modern day. So I'm just going to test something really quickly first. You can see that reacts really quickly though, although it's not perfect. Yeah. So the way this would work, the vertical spacing is still bad, but at least the horizontal is compressed. Unfortunately, they are also now staggered, which is not ideal. And yeah, I think I might be able to alter this to be better though, especially if I use pistons instead of lamps. So, there's a lot of signal interference potential in here though. And also, if the lamps make direct contact with the lines, it also powers adjacent cells as well as the ones directly, so it looks more like this. Which is actually clumsier than originally. So I think the best possible configuration might actually be just having them be like this. And then have these filled in anyway, or actually have these black so that it gives more contrast to the lights. And so horizontally it would work better, but vertically it would be just as bad, and it would also be staggered, which is not ideal either. What if we tried to eliminate the staggering somehow? Well, theoretically, actually, like this maybe? That might actually work. Yeah. So now it's not staggered anymore, but vertically it is still stretched by one, which could be disorienting. Trying to think about how I could fix that. Hmm. Oh yeah, because these make direct contact. I forgot about that. Uh, Actually, that's not valid. Now that I think about it. Yeah, this is the best so far. Still not really great either. Hmm. That would be weird. How would that work? Hmm. Now this looks like it might actually have some potential. Although, still. Eh. And of course the delay is still 0, or as close to 0 as possible. And it has the composite input, which is also pretty nice. And pretty compact as well. Another interesting thing. Staggered by 1, each other cell powers 2 at a time in this configuration. The current one and the ones to each side, which I'm not sure if that's ideal. Hmm. Yeah, that would require deeper thought in order to figure out fully. But also another thing we're going to need is the inputs. And for inputs, I actually prefer switches that do this here, so that you can flick them as fast as you want, and it would act like a very fast button, unlike the stone button, which has a very long delay, which I really don't like. Hmm. And of course, if you really wanted to have something like a shift key, you could just have this right here. And so you can send composite commands. And also, instead of having this be so many wires, you might want to, since you can only press one button at a time in this configuration, you could compress all of that down, with an encoder, the opposite of a decoder. In this case, to being only 2 wires, so that and of course this would select between the 2 encoders for different commands. But conceivably, this could already be the foundations for the interface. My idea for interface is for there to be, first of all, a ROM with firmware on it that holds a font as well as a very basic machine-level operating system that would only perform very basic instructions It would basically just be a command prompt with a command parser and some inbuilt commands that would interface in specific ways with the processor as to make it so that you could do some basic interfacing with the machine, just enough to program a simple program in order to replace it as a higher level operating system. And then from there you could uh, do whatever else you wanted. Mm. But these decoders, because of their size, are one of the biggest problems we're going to have in making this new processor. My idea wasn't originally to make a processor, but it's become that way. Originally I wanted to make an FPGA, but I suppose that can wait until after I'm done with this, because these recent discoveries would change everything about how a processor would work in Redstone. This memory here alone is actually a huge difference. Mm. And so right there would be the one RAM bank for the whole processor, 16 bytes, actually half bytes because these are 14 bits. Trying to do 8-bit in Minecraft is, well, it's like trying to, what's a good analogy? It's like trying to compose music using your feet, or trying to play a guitar with your feet probably would be a better analogy. And trying to play piano with your eyelashes. uh, and then, due to these advanced tileable gates I also conceived over here, we might be able to make an ALU only about the same size as this memory bank as well. So it'd be like a microprocessor. Well, about as micro as you could get with Redstone, that is. The control unit would probably be the biggest part, taking up probably this entire area over here. Uh, and then after that, I would need to design a hard drive that isn't too massive, so it would have high density, but the speed would also need to be not terrible, as in reading 1 byte would need to take not as long as having lunch, so that way the computer runs at a rate that is acceptable. And of course, I had a great idea for handling the hard drive RAM interface, where on boot up the processor starts by initializing the RAM by loading the boot sector of the hard drive, which is the section between the first byte and however many bytes along the RAM can store at a time, and then executes whatever's in that boot sector. And I think at that boot sector, I'm going to actually store the basic operating system that's going to handle machine level commands from the interface. Either that, or I'm probably going to have a different system set up just for if there's nothing in the boot sector. So if there's no bootable medium, it will load into a machine level command line interface as a sort of last contingency for allowing you to interface with the machine. And of course, for a bootable medium, I would like to have some kind of portable data storage, like maybe a minecart, a chest full of items that could all be variables, or something like that. Maybe a punch card or something. Uh, but all of those, yeah, kind of disappointed that I didn't get very much done in this episode, though, so far. So I'm going to actually stretch this on longer by trying to improve the screen. Hmm. This bottom row isn't being used for anything. However, this top row is. So, see, this line in here is powering all 3 of these, and this line in is powering all 3 of these. But on the next row over, which I could also display over here, this is only powering the single one right here. And so on every other row, you're going to see 1 pixel right here instead of 3 right here, which is disorienting at best. Now that's something I would like to fix. Uh, hmm. I suppose one way we might go about fixing something like that is to actually remove these here. So that these go back to only activating the one right in front of it, and so do these, and so it's consistent. Working out from what we know works, or starting out from what we know works. Weird. We want to fill these gaps with something, I'm sure. Unfortunately, these composite cables are two blocks tile vertical, and so the minimum pixel height would need to be 2 with this kind of input. The only way around that I can see is using these things here, along with these here. But even then, look at this. Yeah. Oh, and that as well. Yeah. This redstone is a severe case of the butterfingers. But at least we compressed it horizontally by half, by double. We halved the width, and so now it's theoretically halfway to victory. And now we just need to make this not look terrible somehow. Uh, and I think that's actually going to be the challenge. Actually, this pixel doesn't get activated by this, and so that's pretty inconsistent as well. Besides, it's hard to tell the difference between a retracted and extended piston. There. There. Hmm. I'm just sitting here making noises. I think this is actually the best it can be for right now. What can we put here to make this look more consistent so that it's not so noticeably horrible? Because try reading text that's being displayed on something this striped. Oh, look at that. That's not what we want. So that wouldn't even work. We would need to have it be open spaced like that. Yeah, so try reading a letter that's displayed like that. For an A, it would be, I think, this pixel, these 2 rows, and then this one right here. Let's actually see if we can emulate that right now. Hmm. Oh yeah, of course. Only one more second. There. Now this is generally how A would look. It try reading text like that. Let's see if we can make any other characters. The preferred pixel density of characters in this case is probably 3 by 5 pixels to display the necessary detail for reading something well. So now, let's try B. I prefer B with the one loop instead of the two loops. So that would be that. Yeah, that's a B. Yeah, although it's not entirely unreadable, if you just try not to pay attention too hard to seeing the inner workings of the screen while also reading. Although that, I guess, could be disorienting. It just doesn't look good. If only we could just compress it, like I would be hoping to. Oh, and for speakers, of course, I just remembered. So my idea for speakers there's this one sound that I really like. Yeah, that one fits perfectly. And so what you would have is a speaker comprised of 4 of these, and just going to put these in to make it easier. And you would have all of these note blocks at a different pitch, so counting, each one of these should be 4 higher than the last one. There, and so listen to this. And so you can have different pitches of the same noise, and if you got creative, you can put the pitches together to make composite noises like that. And this would be white noise, which unfortunately isn't very white because it's well, try making accurate noises with note blocks in Minecraft. And of course we can composite these as well, like this here. I'm going to need to do that one again now. Another thing you could do is have each one of these have twice as high a pitch as the last one, which also works as a format for doing this. There, and now this should work exactly the same as before. And it does, and it's also twice as compact. And so this can be one speaker right here, or you can extend it further to make it even better. And of course, the fewer notes separately you have, and the less possible notes you can construct with them. And so these are 3 basic interface components. This here would probably be mostly used in things like games, like Pong maybe, or maybe special audio cues in text editor programs for certain things that are happening, or possibly an MP3 player program, which would actually also work. Hmm. This is still a problem, though. The other two things aren't even a problem. They're good enough. Actually, you could composite this as well. I'll just do that right now for fun. You see this staggering that allows for compositing in Minecraft? It changes everything about what you can do with Minecraft. I'm just going to put these here as indicators. There, and so that's working also. I say this can actually be your keyboard right here. Hmm. Actually, it can be even better like this. There. There, of course, the ones that look down like this are actually undepressed, or uncompressed, or unactivated. Switching them around activates them, and so it only activates on the rising and falling edges of each, except for this one. I would prefer only having a very simple, maybe 8-button keyboard, and having there be octal or quaternary input for the computer, so that, or actually, yeah, we could use this here as part of the input to make it hex input. And so the first 8 are the numerals 1 or 0 through 7, and then turning this on changes them into 8 through 15. Of course, actually, we would need a delete button or a backspace right here. Maybe a few system buttons over here in the panel. Can't really expect to make a very good keyboard in redstone. But even then, this one is pretty good. Oh yeah, I forgot this was here. Yeah, from that one time that thing exploded. Uh, but I think that's about as practical as you can make something like that without mods, and I'm not in the mood for mods right now. Basically destroyed the redstone experience mostly. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that's enough for right now, though. I'll think about that more later.